Top of the news here at 5:30. Former Cheektowaga strip club owner Peter Gerace was sentenced to 25 years today in prison on drug and sex trafficking charges. Prosecutors say Gerace groomed dancers at the club with free drugs to coerce them into commercial sex acts with high-paying customers.
Former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of New York, Joel Violante, is here with us now over Zoom. Joel, thank you so much for joining us. You're giving us your reaction to this sentencing today. All right, so first of all, just that reaction to the sentencing.
Well, it's a pretty significant sentence, 25 years if you think of it. It was recommended 33 years, so from what I understand, the judge departed downward, which isn't unusual. But 25 years, that's something you see for murder conviction to stateside. So I think the prosecution essentially got what they want. They set out a case where they brought in all the evidence, a conspiracy spanning over, I believe it was like 14 years of drug trafficking, using the strip club as a place to distribute drugs, and most serious sex trafficking drug users and the dancers. So I think putting that all into place, the judge viewed all the facts. He heard the testimony. The jury decided that he was guilty, and he imposed a sentence that he felt was fair and reasonable under the Sentencing Guideline Act.
Joel, is there anything in particular about some of the things you just mentioned, about the trafficking in sex or drug, or about the fact that he was maintaining this business in order to do those things? Is there anything in particular that is extra nefarious at that federal level that is akin to the statute that would lead the judge to sentence such a high number, given the fact that he's already been in prison for what, 4 years, right?
Yeah. Well, this is sort of on a personal note. I think we're bombarded with the term sex trafficking. We hear it so much that you kind of get immunized to it. But I've tried cases. I've dealt with a lot of cases involving it, and it's really bad. Sex trafficking is very bad. And I know there's defense attorneys are saying, well, the victims, they made the choice of taking the drugs, but it's a lot far more complicated than that. These are individuals who are vulnerable. They're addicted to a drug, and whatever the reason why they got there at that point or not, when somebody then takes advantage of them, a lot of times men like Mr. Gerace is found guilty of taking advantage of them, using them, dangling the drugs over them to do these other types of criminal acts and sex acts with other individuals, or men coming to have sex with them and passing these women around for that. When you get to the meat and bones of this and you talk to the victims as I have, it's very, very violent, manipulative type of crime. And I think the judge hearing that, the jury hearing that, I think it takes it out of the realm of what we hear all the day on the news, sex trafficking. And he said, well, this is bad, and Mr. Gerace, you're going to pay for this.
Well, yes, there were a lot of victims in that courtroom as well, not necessarily today, but throughout that entire process, telling their very real stories. What is the appeal process, if there is one in this case, Joel?
Yes, there is. I highly suspect there will be one. It's usually after a conviction, it's 14 days, you got to file a notice of appeal. I mean, that doesn't mean that the defense has to have their appeal perfected. Obviously, this case stretched out about 7 years, so there's a lot to gather together, gather your thoughts, talk to other experts, see what potential appeal issues there are, and they'll have 14 days to file a notice. And then after that, they'll be able to gather their information, see what they want to appeal on, and they'll file that with the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. So now Judge Villardo in the district court here will be divested of jurisdiction. It then goes to the Court of Appeals, and they'll set a scheduling order. Generally speaking, they'll give you about 3 months for the defense to file, gather all the transcripts, everything that they need for the case to put something together and appeal, but they can request more time than that. I know Mr. Gerace has another trial pending or not. Whether that would affect how much time the defense needs to perfect their appeal, I don't know. But generally, 4 days to file it. You expect the appeal to be filed within 30 days, and then the prosecution, they'll have probably another 30 days to respond. But that's in best case scenario. An appellate process generally takes anywhere from 1 year to 2 years for a lot of good reasons, and there's a lot of appeals pending at this time.
And you mentioned kind of some of that. There's still much to come as far as the complexity of this case. Even though it is sentencing phase, it still is not over. We just talked about the possibility of appeal, which is likely. And then, Joel, you mentioned the other case, the witness tampering case that, of course, Mr. Gerace is a party to. What impact would that have on him serving his sentence, and or would it have any impact on where he serves his sentence?
Well, I think first of all, let's take the sentence now that he's serving now. Where he's going to be sentenced, we don't know. The Bureau of Prisons will always try to designate a prison sort of close within 500 miles of home, I think is the rule of thumb. But when you're faced with the length of prison that Mr. Gerace is facing, 25 years, and the violent type of crime, which sex trafficking is considered, they could send you anywhere in the United States. And currently, I believe there's like 121 Bureau of Prisons stretching in all different states. So we just don't know where he's going to serve his time. Now, translating into your question there, Dave, how that would affect it, he could be sentenced to Bureau of Prisons, and he may have to be brought back to the local area for preparation of this trial. We don't know how that's going to play out. That's going to be up to his defense to request that from the Bureau of Prisons, and whether he'll be able to still remain locally in the meantime. I would imagine the defense is going to say, well, we need him here locally to talk about his appeal and prepare for the upcoming trial. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. And if he is sentenced, he'll go somewhere, probably to a facility maybe in New York before he's designated for his final place of sentencing, which will be easier for the marshals to bring him back and forth for his trial if he needs to be.
How much time do you think he'll actually spend behind bars? Dave mentioned earlier he's already spent about 4 years, and we know that sometimes these folks get out early. Yeah,
that's a good question. People always ask you that. It depends on the mandatory minimums he was sentenced of. I don't have that right in front of me, but generally in federal prison, when you're sentenced, if you're sentenced at a year or more, you start calculating 54 days of good time. That can be taken away, obviously, if you don't act right in prison. But, do the math. I'll let Dave or Kelsey do that. 25
We're
years
journalists,
times 50.
Joel.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm an attorney, so we'll leave it to the public to do. But 54 days off for that. He'll get credit for the time that he's already served in prison. So quick math, I bet you he's going to serve probably around 20 years. And as sometimes in federal prison, depending on his history in prison, how he behaved, a lot of times they may let you out a little sooner as you're approaching your end date into a halfway house into the area or not. But again, we can't say for sure he's going to get it, but under the statute, 54 days for every year is what you're entitled to.
Well, this case has certainly been a long time coming, the sentencing day a long time coming, but it is not over yet, and I imagine we'll be hearing from Joel again as it progresses. Joel Violante is a former U.S. attorney in the Western District of New York. Joel, great to see you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Joel.